Indiana Newsdesk is made possible in part by Smithville, fiber internet, streaming TV, home security, and automation in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER attorneys providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu. And by WTIU members. Thank you.
Coming up on Indiana Newsdesk. With the midterm elections next week, what's drawing voters to the polls? We visit counties with the highest and lowest voter turnouts in past years to find out. We sit down with 9th District Democratic candidate Liz Watson to talk about improving health care and how she plans to pay for it.
In the aggregate, healthcare spending will be reduced by about $2 trillion over a decade by moving to a Medicare for All system.
And we dig deep into Indiana history to find out how the Hoosier state got its reputation as a conservative state. Those stories, plus the latest news headlines from across the state, right now on Indiana Newsdesk. Welcome to Indiana Newsdesk. I'm Joe Wren. The midterm elections are only a few days away. Candidates and their supporters are out across the state to win over undecided voters. With the heated race that could determine the makeup of the Senate, eyes are fixed on the Hoosier state. We head to Decatur County, a Republican stronghold where 71% of residents show up to the polls. As Brock Turner reports, many still support the president's agenda.
Residents' support for the president and his agenda hasn't waned since the 2016 election. Pauline Hurt says immigration is the most important issue on her mind.
To keep the immigrants where they belong, mainly because we've had so much terrorism and crime, drugs, everything. I think that's the most important thing to me right now.
Decatur County Clerk Adina Roberts expects a lot of folks just like her to be out on Tuesday.
There's I think a good percentage that does vote early, but I'd say most of them wait to go on election day because they're more traditional. They like to actually go to their polls and go actually on election day. I assume those totals are going to be pretty high this time.
Decatur County is sparsely populated. There are fewer than 27,000 residents here. That creates an interesting dynamic where political operatives run into each other around town, at the grocery store, or in church. For the major party chairman in Decatur County, this tight-knit nature is even more apparent. Nate Harder heads the local Republican Party, and Henry Martin is the Democratic Party chairman. They're next-door neighbors.
But at the end of the day, I still take my dogs to see Dr. Veterinarian Hank Martin, who's been my neighbor forever, and it has nothing to do with politics, and our viewpoints don't they don't taint our ability to interact as neighbors and as part of a community.
Right. And I think we've known Nate since he was a little kid, and it's I think it's kind of fun sometimes. I mean, at least we know two people who are not afraid to discuss politics, and
True.
We can, some people will shy away from it or not want to discuss it on the street, but we can always talk about it across the street. So.
They say while social media and divisive rhetoric can drive a wedge between people, here at home, things are just different. Both attribute high voter turnout to engagement and good candidates. Going door to door and making personal connections with voters matters here. It's a different way of campaigning.
I think the people of Decatur County are going to be really well served by having an engaged electorate and good candidates.
I think when it comes down to the end of the day, if you have good candidates, people will say, life will go on. We will be well served with either of these candidates. It's not like the end of the world if someone would win, but we like to see our side win, of course. But Nate likes
and we feel the same way. We feel the same way.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Brock Turner.
On the other end of the spectrum, Scott County had the lowest voter turnout in the state in 2016. Barbara Brosier visited the county to see how people feel about next week's election.
Early voting is underway at the Scott County Courthouse, but few of the people going in and out of the building are here to cast a ballot.
I don't even know where I'm going to vote this year or not. They're all the same. They're all the same. I personally wouldn't give any of them the time of day because I think they deceive the people in any which way they can just so they can get in office.
Scott County leans Democrat, although it went for Trump and several other Republicans in 2016. It's a rural area, which is most well known for an HIV outbreak that plagued the small town of Austin a few years ago. But that public health crisis doesn't come up at all when you ask people what's influencing their votes.
I don't see much help out of any politician for things that can, a lot of things that can be done to help seniors. It don't happen.
Most of the people I talked to here in Scott County didn't want to do an interview on camera. The issues that are informing their votes really run the gamut. One woman told me border security is what she's most concerned about. Another man said the economy is on the top of his mind, and he's worried that if more Democrats are elected, it could tank. But most of the people I ran into said they've never voted, and they don't plan to start this year.
Denny Wilson chairs the Scott County Democratic Party. He says sparring between candidates in competitive races, like the one for U.S. Senate, turns a lot of potential voters off.
We all like to see a better, a more friendly campaign run. But with all the money involved and all the Senate hanging in the balance with basically, 2 votes either way, it didn't stay a friendly battle very long. It got dirty quick.
Wilson says most Scott County residents are more interested in local races, like those for commissioner and sheriff. But it's unclear if that's enough to draw them to the polls. Only 47% of registered voters turned out in 2016. If attitudes about this year's election are any indication, the numbers may not be any better.
I'm 80 years old, and it's really got worse. It's never got better. It's always got worse.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Barbara Brosier.
We reached out to the Scott County Republican Party several times for interviews, but they did not respond to our requests. Indiana's 9th Congressional District has been cited by many as a race to watch. Trey Hollingsworth defeated Shelley Yoder in 2016 in what many thought would be a much closer race. Now Hollingsworth faces Democratic challenger Liz Watson. Watson says it's not the D or R next to a candidate's name that matters, it's how they'll confront the issues facing Hoosiers. I just wanted to start broadly, talk a little bit about what this election means to you and what's happening now as we get really close to Election Day.
It's a very diverse district, but there are some real common threads across the district. So, things people are struggling with, being able to afford to fill their prescriptions. I've met with a lot of seniors. I was actually just at one of our retirement communities today. Concerns about healthcare costs are paramount. People are very concerned about the opioid crisis in this district. We're terribly concerned about, the discussion around Medicare and Social Security and making sure that those things are there. Investing in our infrastructure and in good jobs here in Indiana.
Let's talk about health care, and we've been hearing about the Medicare for All plan, but some Democrats are split on that. What's your stance? And then, of course, the big question is then how do you fund that?
So we have insurance companies that are designed to basically, by design, deny coverage to the very people who they're supposed to be providing coverage for. There's too much profiting off illness in this country. We can walk and chew gum on this one. And what I mean by that is we can protect the health care we have, which is actually responsible for the vast majority of coverage for people who need opioid treatment in Indiana. If we let Trey Hollingsworth, and they have said they're going to try to do this again, rip away our health care, lots of families across southern Indiana are going to find themselves without the coverage they need to get treatment for the opioid crisis. And the question about cost, so There was a study that was funded by the Koch brothers that found that, and this was checked, I just saw PolitiFact just checked it, that found that in the aggregate, healthcare spending will be reduced by about $2 trillion over a decade by moving to a Medicare for All system. So where does that savings come from? It comes from saving on administrative costs, on all the haggling at denying coverage. It comes from allowing us to make sure that we're able to negotiate drug prices.
I wanted to ask you about your decision to bring in Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders. That was just a few weeks ago. Do you feel like he represents your values and Hoosier values?
I think that we are too much about labels at this point. I'm a Democrat, but as a country, we have spent a whole lot of time putting labels on people, right? And we need to remember that we are all fighting for solutions to some very big problems. We're fighting for healthcare that's affordable and available to every single one of us. We're fighting for great public schools. We're dealing with an opioid crisis that has ravaged our district. We're fighting for living wage jobs, middle class jobs, jobs you can count on that are going to allow you to raise your children, buy a home, and retire with dignity. We're fighting for things that Americans want and need, and that Hoosiers want and need.
Your take, if the Dems get the majority, should they move forward in impeaching Trump?
I don't think that impeachment at this point is a good idea for the country. I think we need to get back to getting things done. I'm focused on the issues facing people in our district.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
We reached out to Watson's opponent, Republican incumbent Trey Hollingsworth, multiple times, but never heard back from his campaign. Senator Joe Donnelly was propelled into office 6 years ago after his Republican challenger's incendiary remarks about abortion tanked his candidacy. On a similar stage Tuesday night, Donnelly's Republican challenger Mike Braun appeared determined to avoid the same fate, despite a full-throated attack from the Democrat, who tried to force the issue.
If your daughter happens to be raped, Mike thinks that the government has a role and a position in the middle of that. I don't.
In an election that could hinge on support from independents and moderate Republican women, abortion could prove to be a volatile electoral issue. Braun avoided a gaffe like Richard Murdoch, Donnelly's 2012 opponent. Instead, he directed the debate back toward Donnelly.
This is another typical case where the senator tries to have it both ways. When it comes to the sanctity of life, you cannot say you're pro-life and have your voting record.
With 4 days until the election, Donnelly and Braun are locked in a tight race. Libertarian candidate Lucy Brenton could make the difference in the Senate race. Brenton ran for Senate in 2016 and got about 5.5% of the vote. If she repeats or improves on that performance, it could tip the scales between Donnelly and Braun. And while it appears unlikely that Democrats will be able to take the chamber, Indiana's Senate race will help determine the balance of power in the Senate. Indiana's critical U.S. Senate race is bringing two presidents to the state this week. Former President Barack Obama will campaign for incumbent Senator Joe Donnelly and other Democratic candidates Sunday in Gary. And President Donald Trump will make two campaign trips to Indiana, one in Indianapolis this week and a stop in Fort Wayne on Monday. Coming up next on Indiana Newsdesk. As part of our Inquire Indiana series, we talked to a Hoosier historian about how Indiana became one of the most conservative states in the U.S. INDOT says I-69 Section 5 work is mostly complete. Lawrence County is auctioning off mobile homes to pay down tax bills. And Vigo County may need to add hundreds of beds to its prison. These stories and more right here on Indiana Newsdesk.
The WTIU WFIU news team connects Indiana to the world. We bring you the top news of the day on radio, TV, and online. We round up the stories that have people talking each week and dig deep into the issues that affect your community the most. The WTIU WFIU news team is where you are and telling your story.
In a time of change, where can you find in-depth reporting and thoughtful analysis? Washington Week on PBS. Join moderator Robert Costa.
When I was at the Capitol this week, I encountered the same.
And a panel of award-winning journalists.
You're seeing a divided nation, and you're seeing.
For insights and perspective.
Tonight there was a key development in the
Senate. You won't find anywhere else.
What a week.
Washington Week.
Welcome back to Indiana Newsdesk. Well, we want to know what you wonder about the Hoosier State and its people as part of our Inquire Indiana project. And when we first asked you to submit questions, a couple people had the same one. Aaron Say asked what major milestones or factors contributed to Indiana becoming one of the most conservative states in the USA. And Kevin Howell asked, why is Indiana so red? We posed those questions to a Hoosier historian.
I think most people think today it's a conservative state. In some ways it is. I think Indiana is more a moderate state that has shifted one way or the other, liberal or conservative, a little bit over our 200 plus years. Part of Indiana's culture comes from the first generation of pioneers who settled here in the very early 1800s. The majority of them came from the upland South. They were not slave owners, they were mostly poor farmers, but they brought with them, when they crossed the Ohio River into southern Indiana, certain values: religion, spousal relationships, child rearing, how to grow corn, how to build a barn, how to vote in politics. And those values were moderate, they were democratic in many ways. They included certainly low taxes or no taxes and minimal government. That government that's necessary, but not beyond that. And so that first generation really set the tune. In 1816, Hoosiers wrote a constitution that was almost radical in its definitions of democracy, in its promise of guarantees of political freedom, of speech and other freedoms, and, for example, in its guarantee in 1816 of a free education for all Hoosier kids, from elementary school to a state university where the tuition would be free. That's a very, very liberal, progressive view of the future as seen in 1816. There are also times when Indiana is more conservative, less progressive. The 1920s is a fantastic example of that, because the leading political event in the 1920s in Indiana was the rise to power of the Ku Klux Klan. One of the most regressive, conservative, reactionary kinds of movements with significant political power. One of the ways in which Indiana tends to be conservative is that Hoosiers have never quite trusted government. Government is often viewed as a bad thing. Government can do two things that are bad. It can reduce your individual freedom to do what you want, and it can tax you. And boy, do Hoosiers not like taxes, even less so in recent decades. That means small government, inexpensive government, and that tends to meet a conservative or moderate approach to the problems of the general welfare of the people. Another liberal progressive moment is with the election of 1960. In response to all sorts of things going on in our culture, the beginnings of student movements, of civil rights, of women's movements as we came to see them later on. But in 1960, Hoosiers elected a fairly liberal Democrat as governor, Matt Welsh. They elected that same era as senator, Birch Bayh. These and others in office in Indiana in the early 1960s were rather liberal. There are other times when conservative politics and ideologies have been more powerful. The 1950s. The era of McCarthy, the era of small government and low taxes. And again in the 1990s, when Indiana became almost obsessed with lowering taxes, with not providing public services that would increase the state's budget. A conservative social ideology and policy that began in the 1990s and came to flower in the administration of Governor Pence, who really has been, perhaps in many ways, our most conservative governor in recent years. We now have a governor who's not quite as conservative, especially on the social issues, more willing to return to what I see as traditional Hoosier values of allowing people to decide for themselves who they want to marry, what their personal lives are all about, rather than having government interfere. I think Indiana in America is now moving in a somewhat different direction, maybe a significantly different direction, away from some of the moderate or conservative politics, away from some of the hot-button social issues that have so occupied our attention and time in recent years.
Now for headlines, we go over to Barbara Brosier, who has the latest on this week's top stories.
Thanks, Joe. Indiana's teacher shortage is improving, but not by much. An annual survey of Hoosier school superintendents shows 91% say their districts had a teacher shortage this fall. That's slightly better than the 94% who reported teacher shortages last year. Among other things, officials blame low pay for the shortage. INDOT says the stretch of I-69 from Bloomington to Martinsville is now, quote, substantially complete. That's more than 2 years later than originally scheduled.
All the pavement is in place, all of the guardrails and signage are in place, all of the pavement markings are in place. So essentially we have a functional interstate corridor with limited traffic restrictions.
There is some work to do before the project is fully complete. That includes landscaping, placing more signs, and adjusting traffic signals at interchanges. When that work is done, INDOT will lift the work zone speed limit from 45 miles per hour to 70 in rural areas and 55 through Bloomington. Lawrence County sold 7 mobile homes during the state's first mobile home tax sale this week. It's part of an effort to clean up the county's tax records. It had more than 400 mobile homes behind on personal property taxes at the beginning of the year. County officials prepared the titles for the mobile homes sold at the auction, but it's up to the buyers to figure out how to get them.
Some questions I've been asked are, if it's occupied, what do we do? Can I just go in and move it? Those are all legal questions. I'm not an attorney.
The mobile homes that didn't sell will remain on the county's tax rolls. Stewart says she expects the auction to become an annual event. A final report looking at the Vigo County criminal justice system recommends a new jail with a capacity of more than 500 beds. But the study says it may not be necessary to put that many beds in the new jail right away. It says implementing other jail population management strategies may be more efficient. The report is the result of a years-long debate over how to solve overcrowding at the current jail. The state's attorney general plans to expand a national substance abuse prevention program to include 19 Indiana counties. The prescription drug safety program is a digital course aimed at high school students.
They learn how to properly use and the proper disposal of drugs. They learn how to step in when they witness another person's misuse.
The lessons covered the science behind addiction and aim to dispel myths, including that prescription pills are not as harmful as other drugs. Hill says the average age of overdose victims in Indiana is 19. The digital classes will reach approximately 100 high schools. It launched in Marion County last year. One of the world's largest studies to explore the impact of concussions received new funding for its second phase. The Indiana University School of Medicine received more than $22 million in new funding. Phase 2 will track young athletes and military cadets to study the impact of repetitive head injury. The study could help identify biomarkers and genetic factors to identify who may be more at risk.
Barbara, you watch a little bit of football, and boy, when those helmets make contact, you do wonder sometimes, boy, how much that hurts in the long term.
We don't know. That's the thing. We don't know. We know what concussions are, but we don't know a lot about their long-term impacts. So that's what they're hoping to uncover.
Thank you. Hoosiers are coming together to show their solidarity after a shooting at a Pittsburgh synagogue that killed 11 people. In Bloomington, students and community members gathered to stand against acts of anti-Semitism.
Bloomington community members of all backgrounds came together to reflect and share tearful remarks during a memoriam gathering earlier this week. The Bloomington Hillel Center hosted the event, which gave students and members of the Jewish community the chance to mourn. One Pittsburgh native who attended the vigil says the shooting occurred in an area that her family cherished for years.
The man who attempted to take the security and safety from my home and our community's sacred place will lose his fight, as have all others who have attempted in the past.
IU President Michael McRobbie says the university, for its part, will continue to foster a safe space for students of all backgrounds.
We cannot and we must not hide from our responsibility as a community to confront and condemn such acts of anti-Semitism and all forms of hatred whenever and wherever we find them.
Indiana is one of 5 states without a hate crimes law. Governor Eric Holcomb called for such legislation after someone vandalized a Carmel synagogue's property with the swastika earlier this year. The executive director of the Hillel Center says there's a need for change, but it starts with having respect and tolerance for one another.
We must band together, each and every one of us, so that we can realize the power that we can have as a community to stop this hatred.
For Indiana Newsdesk, I'm Alex Eady.
And that's the end of this program, but our work continues online as we cover the news throughout the week at WTIUnews.org. Have a great weekend.
Smithville Fiber, the Giga City Company, fiber internet, HD, and digital IPTV in southern Indiana. More information at smithville.com. MALLOR GRODNER Attorneys, providing legal services to clients and the community. Understanding, expertise, results. Bloomington and Indianapolis, lawmg.com. The IU School of Education, preparing teachers, scholars, and administrators to improve teaching in Indiana and around the world. education.indiana.edu. IU Alumni Association, connecting IU's network of alumni and sharing the Indiana spirit through scholarships, advocacy, and volunteerism. alumni.iu.edu. IU Center for Rural Engagement, extending IU Bloomington resources to improve Hoosier lives in partnership with communities and organizations. rural.indiana.edu and by WTIU members. Thank you.